Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 10th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasonowski.
Absent.
This evening. Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Rob Hawkins.
Here.
Okay, and I don't think we have the minutes, so we'll get those in our next meeting. First item up will be old business as salary or ordinance 2024-08. Salary ordinance amendment is on second reading, but Ben is in the hallway. So I will move to new business. That's okay with council. Consent takes you out of order. Consent. Okay. New business then is a funding request from the Lebanon Little League. Matt Reynolds.
Evening, Council. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm here on behalf representing Lebanon Little League. As many of you may know, this is our 75th year, which is a pretty big milestone, founded in 1949. We are the oldest continuously chartered Little League in the state of Indiana, which is, I think, something to be very proud of and something that a lot of people don't realize. But 75 years, and we still find ourselves being one of the more affordable youth sports programs within the community. And that's what we're priding ourselves on, is finding ways to fund our program. Because as many of you may know, we are the only youth sports program in the community that has to fund 100% of our program, from the program itself to maintenance of the facilities, everything under the sun, we are responsible for. We don't own the property that the Little League is on. It's owned by the school corporation, but we lease it for $1 every year. Excuse me. But we're responsible for 100% of the cost of operations. All of that includes $13,000 a year for mowing the property, anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 a year for utilities alone, $6,000 to $9,000 for field mix and conditioner to keep our fields playable in the Indiana springs and summers when it gets really hot and really wet. So we have the dry and wet conditions. We have to maintain those fields. So we operationally spend about $110,000 every year to put on our program. We don't have the benefit as some other youth sports leagues that operate on city property. So they don't have to pay the $13,000 a year for mowing. They don't have to pay the $2,000 to $5,000 a year for fertilizer, building maintenance, utilities, things of that nature. So that kind of gives you a little idea of why I'm here tonight, asking for some funding. The catalyst of the funding request is we have the honor of hosting the Indiana State Majors Baseball Tournament this coming year. So coming up in July 6th through the 18th. I'm sorry, the 8th through the 16th. I had those backwards. We'll be hosting the Majors Boys Baseball State Tournament, which is the top state tournament for Little League in the state of Indiana. So we'll be hosting that. The winners of that will then move on to regionals and then play at Williamsport in the Little League World Series. So this is a pretty big deal for us to be able to host this. And in order to provide a better experience immediately for this tournament that we're hosting next month, and also long-term, is we're looking to add an additional batting cage to our facility. I'm gonna put a little map up here for you. Many of you are familiar. We've been there since many, many decades, so you know what's going on out there. But so we've got the four diamonds, and you can see on the lower middle, we have two batting cages that are out in the outfield of our Field 1 facility. We are looking to add a third cage out behind Field 3, which is right next to our parking lot, right off of Tiger Way. That's the intersection of Outer Drive and Tiger Way there, with the high school just north off the screen there. So we're adding a third batting cage that will, like I said, make an immediate impact to allow this state tournament to operate a little more efficiently with teams getting warmed up, ready for the games. But then also this long-term benefit of adding this amenity for the kids that we host throughout the spring, summer, and fall during our programs. We have 423 kids that went through our spring program this year, and we've been averaging anywhere between 375 and 450, and we don't see that changing anywhere. And that's just for the spring season. In the fall season, we'll host anywhere from 250 to 300 kids for those programs. This additional batting cage would provide them an opportunity to have more practices out of the facility. Right now, we're sharing 2 cages between 38 teams. Adding a third batting cage will allow them to have a little more freedom with practices. Excuse me. So the ask here tonight is we're looking for some assistance in funding this additional batting cage. I did meet with the Food and Beverage Board, the committee, and we talked about the typical $1,500 that's given to nonprofits. Looking at Lebanon Little League, the impact that we've had on the community for the last 75 years, the fact that we fund 100% of our operational costs, and the fact that we bring in, the state tournament is going to bring in 12 to 16 teams for that July 8th through the 16th. So we're talking about, could potentially be several dozen or even hundreds of hotel rooms for 2 to 3 days. If you're looking at family members spending anywhere from $30 to $50 per day in food. So you can see that food and beverage revenue coming back into the community. And then as we host these tournaments throughout the year, adding this will only allow us a better opportunity to be honored to host these additional tournaments. So with this additional batting cage, it's almost identical to the 2 that we have. It's 75 feet or 70 feet long. The total cost is $11,800. Tonight, I would respectfully ask for a food and beverage donation of $10,000. So we would like to have some skin in the game by having about $2,000 of our own money towards this project, and asking for the city to help participate to make our facility just a better facility for this tournament as well as for the youth going forward. And I know, Mr. Campbell, you always talk a lot about skin in the game and things, and not only do we do we wanted to have some on this batting cage, but I just want to talk about some of the improvements that we have made on our own to the facility over the last about 3 to 5 years. We added lighting to Field 3, which was at a cost of $35,000. We added a new we changed the scoreboard on Field 1, our primary scoreboard. That was $9,000. We paved our asphalt walkways so that people with strollers and walkers and wheelchairs could more easily access the parking lots and the bleachers. That was a cost of about $20,000 for all the walks. We rebuilt Field 3 with all new material. That was $10,000. We had concession stand upgrades at about $3,000 just this past year. We upgraded our lighting on Field 1. I think the lighting was the same wiring that was there when I played, which several decades ago, and we buried the new wiring this time, so it's all underground. That was $45,000. And then we did just remodel our bathrooms this year to make them ADA accessible, and that was about $7,000 to get that done. So over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, we've spent $125,000 or more than $125,000 just to maintain our facility, to improve it, and provide a better experience for all those kids, the hundreds of kids every year that come through the program. So that's my pitch tonight. Again, we are moving forward with this project, whether the city would like to participate or not. So we've already got the funding in place. The contract's been signed. We did get 3 quotes for the project: $16,950, $12,367, and then the $11,830. And we did go with the $11,830 as the lowest and most responsible bidder of the project. So we are moving forward. We do intend to have this in place before the tournament, July 8th. And we would respectfully ask that the city help partner with us and make this a better experience, not only for these visitors coming into town, but also, like I said, for those hundreds of kids that do come through our program each and every year.
Matt, first question I have, I'm not remembering very off the top of my head of whether the Little League has asked for support from the city before or recently. I mean, have we done that in the past, or is this kind of
that was one of the things that were brought up, and I had to do some research on it. COVID year, post-COVID, the Little League did ask for sanitizer dispensers, help funding for sanitizer dispensers. I was president at that time. I don't recall that ask. I think that was headed by Corey Coots, who kind of had the know-how with the food and beverage requests. So that was in the 75 years, to my knowledge, that is the only participation that we've had from the city. And it definitely has since I've been on the board. I'm an honorary member of the board right now, but served as president for 7 years and then was on the board for an additional 5 years. So over the last decade and a half, no city participation that I'm aware of.
Food and Beverage Committee, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steer your thunder.
I was just gonna confirm that anybody in the community is able to use it, obviously, if there's a team practicing, they can't, but in off hours, somebody could go in there from the community and practice. Is that
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, it's not something we advertise. We typically don't advertise that our park's open. Because what tends to happen is it becomes a dog park. People like to bring their dogs out there and let them run around in a fenced area, and then we have to clean up all the poop after them. But it is something, the batting cages are not locked. If you go by there, my guess is leave here tonight, you'll see some kids or dad and daughter or mom and son out there practicing pitching or taking some batting practice, getting ready for whatever season. So they're not locked. We do take them down in the winter so that the weight of the snow doesn't sit on them and that it helps them last longer. The typical life that we're seeing out of these batting cage nets is about 8 to 10 years, and that is because we do take them down during the winter months. But we are going with a higher quality nylon covered mesh netting that should hold up pretty well, like I said, hopefully for the next decade. But definitely the concrete pad that it's be laid on, and then the steel frame, it's 2.5-inch galvanized pipe that should last significantly longer than the decade.
Is there a Food and Beverage Committee report, or do we want to just other questions?
I just kind of, since it was more of a broad project, I wanted it to be the full council's consideration.
Okay, there's no recommendation. Okay,
Yep,
fair enough.
yep.
Yep. Any other questions from council?
I don't have a question. I got a comment. These type of things, bigger things like this that are more visible to people, and we're giving funding from our food and beverage fund, okay? It would look really nice, and I'd like for you to do this if you could figure out how to do it. Create some sort of sign or something that said, this batting cage has been funded and sponsored by the Lebanon City Food and Beverage Fund. The idea is it gives people the way to see what our food and beverage fund money is going to help support our community and so forth. Okay.
I 100% agree. And that
Okay.
was going to be an offer that I was going to make, that we could put a banner. We have banners printed every year for our sponsors that donate to our program. Be more than happy for the life of the batting cage to have a banner on there that says sponsored by the City of Lebanon or the Food and Beverage Fund. We can work with the mayor and Joe and or council to figure out the exact wording of what you want on there, but more than happy to have something like that on there. No problem at all.
My comment is that, it's been there for that long. I mean, I played on there too. So that field must have been there like 10 years before I got on it. But anyway, since you haven't asked for any money for all these years, I would be in favor of funding this request. And it's not a line item thing that you're going to be coming back for, but it's just like a once in a 75-year ask. So with the impact that it has on everybody, I would be in favor of it.
Thank you, Mike.
Second question is, you said you're going to move ahead with it. How would you finance it if you didn't get any money from the city?
We, as a program, we've operated in the black for many years, other than our COVID year, where we lost money because we still had to mow and maintain and fertilize and do all that, and we didn't have a season. But most every other year, we operate in the black, and that our operating expenses are about $110,000 every year. Our revenue ranges between 115 to 120, just depending on the amount of sponsorships and donations or grants that we're awarded throughout the year. So we do each year, there's hundreds, thousands of dollars, $5,000 to $6,000 that we typically have that we reinvest back into the facility so that we can, we're not going to sit on the money. We want to use it to better the program and better the facility. So that's how we're funding it, is just from money out of our account.
Sandra?
With this upcoming event, the city does stand to gain quite a bit from this with all the people that plan to be here, right?
It should. Again, it could be 12 to 16 teams. Some of the districts within the state don't always field all-star teams. It's a rather expensive endeavor. If you think about having to buy new uniforms for everybody, transportation, our program, we provide kind of a stipend to each player to help cover cost of food and travel and gas and hotels, especially if they're staying, I think in years past, we've had all-star teams have to go down to Evansville for tournaments. So we're centrally located, but if you have teams coming from Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana or even Southern Indiana, those aren't really day trips for these teams. They're going to come and they're going to stay somewhere close. They're going to eat and drink here for a few days while their team's here. If they're successful, they'll be here for longer. Obviously, it's a double elimination tournament. But so yes, we certainly should see as a community that increase in economic revenue and or vitality from these tournaments.
Questions? Good, Rob.
One comment I'd like to ask you or make, I believe it's called the Great Lakes region. That's the region we're in. Is that hosted right after this tournament?
It is. So it would immediately follow in Whitestown. So the region tournament would follow. I don't know I think there's a few day delay, but I want to say if our tournament is on the 16th, I believe somewhere around the 18th or 20th, that should kick off region and then followed with the Little League World Series.
That was, I just want to make a comment. That was one of the reasons why we had said, hey, come here to this meeting tonight, because you're now looking at 2 weekends where we have funding coming into the city of Lebanon that is going to benefit it, and I think it's going to pay for itself. The only thing that, and this is just from me driving by this so many times because I live close to it, that's where a lot of fans sit. Where are we putting them now?
So that area right there, we're putting it right behind a scoreboard. So a lot of fans don't stand there because they can't see the score or the count or anything. They could lean in and maybe try to crank their head to look up over it, but it's behind the scoreboard, so it's not a prime viewing area. It is a way where some of the parents do like to get away from the crowds and they like to stand outside. And but we have plenty of outside fencing around the outfield that would still plenty of room for those viewers that want to sit somewhere away from the bleachers and away from the crowds. So it's not a prime viewing area because that scoreboard, like I said, unless you're keeping track of balls and strikes in your head and outs and score. So it won't be a big loss. There actually will still be room. You just may be contending with some teams warming up behind you as you're standing there at the fence line watching the game.
I told Matt also that I think it'll be extremely beneficial that when these teams come in for that tournament to go to the Little League World Series, they're going to need a place to practice. And with that, having that third batting cage there, it's going to help out tremendously.
Very much. Last year, the softball region tournament was hosted in Whitestown, and we had 3 teams that asked if they could practice at our facility. And we were more than happy to do so because we're not using it during that time. And those teams did come, and they stayed for a few hours, and they obviously were staying in the Boone County area. I don't know if they were staying in Lebanon or not, but so that we are bringing them into town by we're feeding off of that Whitestown, that Little League Central Region headquarters, that field there off of 65.
Comments?
I have a question. I mean, I know a whole thing about Little League for a long time,
A little bit.
in a couple of days. But I'm telling you though, the only thing I'm really concerned about is we're opening up a can of worms here. Because it's going to come, every other youth thing will be coming here for money if we start. And then where does it stop? Or where do we tell them yes or no? That's the only concern I am as a member of the council. I'm not against it, not in any way other than that, other than you're opening up a huge problem here. Not against it at all.
My response to that, Keith, is multiple things is one, we're not coming in every year asking for money. This, again, outside of the COVID year for the dispenser, the sanitizer, we haven't asked for any participation from the city.
Oh, I understand that. But once we start, then
Well, you already
everybody
kind
else
of
is going
do.
to
I
come
mean,
and
you
they're
have
going to say,
you have the 5Ks that come in every year and ask for $1,500. You have the Back to the 50s Festival that gets $1,500 every year.
yeah,
In 8 years, you're at $10,000. So us asking for a one-time chunk is, I think, different than, or pretty much the same thing as coming in every year and asking for that $1,500. The other thing that I may throw in there is the city is already investing tens of thousands of dollars every year to support youth soccer and youth football. Those are hosted at city-owned parks. So John Messenger and his team are mowing those, they're fertilizing those, they're maintaining the building there at youth football at Abner Longley. So those are all the utilities. My guess is the outhouses that are at Reese Park for soccer are paid for. And then honestly, you guys just spent $54,000 of food and beverage to provide parking spaces for youth soccer at Reese Park. Without youth soccer, those 52 parking spaces weren't necessary. I mean, that's an empty field with a shelter house, so you don't need 50 spaces. So without youth soccer, so you already are doing that. You just haven't had those youth sports groups come in and ask for it because you're already funding it.
I think it's a fair point. I mean, we do support them, just not as maybe directly in the situation, right? But we do certainly support them from maintenance and from an infrastructure investments that we make in our parks because they use our parks. So.
And I'm not trying to make it an us versus them.
No, but your situation is unique, right? Because you're not housed in a city park, right? I mean.
Yep.
Questions or motion?
Make a motion, we approve the amount of, is it 11,000?
10 was the request.
10 is the ask.
Oh, okay. You want 10,000, right?
The request was for 10.
Oh, okay, yeah. I make a motion, we approve a funding request of $10,000 for Lebanon Little League from food and beverage.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Congratulations. And
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate
we'll
it.
work with you on, I think doesn't the awning at the fairgrounds have kind of a sign, Dick, from like paid for by the Lebanon Food and Beverage Fund, something like that? That may be some of the wordage on the sign.
What now?
The advertisement.
City council and.
Isn't there
Yeah.
something there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to have a sign up there.
Okay, I'll get with you, man, on
We'll do
that.
that.
Yeah.
And then we're hosting the district softball tournament, which is the 10 and under, a week from this coming Saturday. So if you want to see some good softball, you can come to the ballpark. And then again, July 8th through the 16th, Majors Baseball State Tournament. So that should be a pretty fun week.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
everybody.
Okay, that concludes new business. We'll go back to old business now. First item up is ordinance 2024-08, salary ordinance amendment. This is on second reading. Ben?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, just a quick refresher from our meeting a couple of weeks prior. This is an amendment of the salary ordinance that was adopted last year, which was ordinance 2023-19. And this would add 2 positions to the salary ordinance, one in the planning department, which is a planner position, with a salary of $65,000 annually. And then a second position, which would be in the engineering department with an annual salary, and that's actually a project manager position with an annual salary of $75,000. So that is what's before you tonight in the amendment. The second part of that is obviously the funding of those positions. And just as a reminder, the planner position in the planning department is already funded at $55,000 annually out of the planning non-reverting fund. The proposal would be then at a minimum for the remainder of 2024 to fund the increase in that position out of the non-reverting fund also, which is money on hand. And I think that's salary and benefits for 6 months is about $7,000, give or take. So that was what we would need from our non-reverting fund to pay for the remainder of 2024 for the planner position, and then the project manager position, the funding for the remainder of 2024, there'll be an additional appropriation request at your next meeting, along with a number of other appropriation requests. So that position, the funding would be from the general fund with an additional appropriation request. So tonight would just be the second reading of the salary ordinance amendment and then an approval of the funding from the non-reverting fund of approximately $7,000 to fund the planner position. And then you'll be hearing the request for funding for the project manager position your next meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Question on that for Ben this time? Okay, I'll have Rob read the ordinance again for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2024-08 on October 23rd, 2023, this council adopted ordinance 2023-19 establishing the compensation to be paid to employees of the city for the calendar year 2024. City of Lebanon Planning Department has a need to add a new planner position to address the increased workload. The City of Lebanon Engineering Department also has a need to add a new project manager position to address increased workload. This council desires to add a new planner position for the Planning Department and a new project manager position for the Engineering Department. Therefore, be it ordained that there is hereby added to the city's salary ordinance a planner position within the Planning Department with a maximum annual salary of $65,000 and a project manager position within the engineering department with a maximum annual salary of $75,000. Attachment A is the 2024 salary ordinance, and which reflects the new planner and project manager position, and it's hereby adopted. All other provisions of the 2023-19 ordinance not affected by this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect under Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Ordinance been read on second reading. Further discussion, comments, questions, council?
Like standard guidelines that they have to meet for these particular positions you're asking for?
Yes, we have an existing job description for the planner position that we're looking to promote somebody within our department to that position and then backfill their position. The project manager position will be somewhat similar to the position that Savannah held in our office for the last year or so, helping Kevin deliver projects. So I think he's currently working on a job description, if I'm not mistaken. It hasn't been advertised yet, but he'll be working on that job description, getting it advertised, assuming that the salary ordinance amendment and funding is approved.
Be in writing for potential applicants then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion then concerning ordinance 2024-08.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 2024-08.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that is approved. That concludes what I have for old business. Anything from council? Okay, move on to claims. We're entertaining a motion concerning the claims. Motion to pay the claims. Is there a second? Second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved. Any announcements or discussion? Okay, we're entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion adjourns. Is there a second? Second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Actually, can we have make sure the record reflects that Sandra was a little late, but was, so, want to make sure we clarified that for you. So,
I'll wait.
yeah, you're good. All right, so with that, motion second to adjourn. Our next city council meeting will be June 24th at 7:15 PM. We are adjourned.